Just a few minutes ago, fans of Moonshiners started asking the same question. What did Digger MINS just reveal? Social media lit up with posts, videos, and rumors. Some people feared the worst. Others believed a major change was coming. But as the story spread, one thing became clear. The truth was far more interesting than the headlines. And to understand why this news matters so much, we first have to understand the man behind the nickname. For years, Eric Digger MINS has been one of the most trusted faces on Moonshiners. He isn't just known for making liquor. Fans admire him for his honesty, his sense of humor, and the deep respect he shows for Appalachian traditions. That is why any news connected to him spreads incredibly fast. Recently, Digger and his longtime partner, Mark Ramsey, spoke openly about the dangers they still face after years on television. They admitted that encounters with law enforcement changed the way they think about their future, and they explained that staying out of prison has become a bigger priority than ever. Those comments immediately fueled fresh speculation about what comes next. TV Insider. But before we go any further, what do you think this announcement means for Digger's future? Do you believe he'll keep making Moonshiners, or is a new chapter about to begin? Let me know in the comments. The truth is, Digger has never been someone who chases fame. Long before millions of people knew his name, he was carrying on a family tradition that had been passed down through generations. Even after becoming a television star, he often reminded viewers that the cameras were never the reason he started this life. That makes today's news feel even bigger. Because when someone like Digger speaks, fans know it usually comes from the heart, not from a desire to grab attention. But here's what many people don't realize. This isn't the first time Digger has faced a moment that could have changed everything. Behind the laughs, the stories around the still, and the unforgettable friendship with Mark Ramsey is a lifetime filled with risk, hard work, and difficult choices. Every success came with a price. Every season brought new challenges. And perhaps the biggest challenge of all began many years before Moonshiners ever existed. To understand why today's announcement has so many people talking, we have to go back to where the story really began. In the mountains, where a young boy learned a tradition that would shape the rest of his life. Long before television crews followed him through the woods, Digger MINS was simply a boy growing up in the hills of Tennessee. The mountains were more than beautiful scenery. They were home. They were family. And they were filled with stories that had been passed from one generation to the next. For many families in Appalachia, moonshining was never just about making liquor. It was about survival. During hard times, especially after the Great Depression, many people used the skill to earn enough money to feed their families. That history became part of the culture, and Digger grew up surrounded by people who respected those traditions. Historians of Appalachian culture and documentaries about the region have long described moonshining as both an economic necessity and a deeply rooted family craft. As a young boy, Digger listened carefully whenever the older men shared their stories. They didn't just teach recipes. They taught patience, respect, and responsibility. Every lesson carried one clear message. If you were going to continue the family tradition, you had to do it the right way. But there was one problem. The world outside those mountains didn't always see moonshiners the same way. To many people, they were criminals hiding from the law. To those who lived in the mountains, they were neighbors trying to preserve a way of life that had existed for generations. Digger grew up between those two very different worlds. He understood that every choice came with risks. That conflict would follow him for the rest of his life. As he grew older, Digger earned a reputation for being calm under pressure. Friends often described him as someone who preferred solving problems instead of creating them. That personality would later make him one of the most respected figures on Moonshiners. Instead of chasing drama, he focused on craftsmanship, tradition, and loyalty. But none of that guaranteed success. In fact, there were moments when it seemed his story might never leave the mountains. Then something happened that nobody could have predicted. The Discovery Channel began looking for real people who could tell the true story behind Appalachian moonshining. Instead of actors reading lines, producers wanted individuals who genuinely understood the culture. According to interviews with cast members and reports from Discovery, authenticity was one of the biggest reasons viewers connected with the series. Out of all the people they could have chosen, Digger stood out. Not because he was the loudest. Not because he wanted fame. But because he was real. His easy smile, quiet confidence, and deep knowledge made him impossible to ignore. And when he teamed up with his longtime friend Mark Ramsey, something special happened. The two men had a chemistry that couldn't be scripted. They joked with each other like brothers, argued when necessary, and always found a way to work together. Fans quickly noticed that their friendship felt genuine. It wasn't television magic. It was real life. Before long, millions of viewers were tuning in every season to watch the pair tackle impossible challenges, build incredible stills, and keep old traditions alive in a modern world. But television fame brought something Digger had never experienced before. The cameras didn't just capture his successes. They also captured the pressure. And that pressure would eventually lead to one of the biggest turning points of his entire career, a moment that tested his friendship, his reputation, and his future in ways he never expected. When Moonshiners first aired on Discovery in 2011, many people believed it would be just another reality show. They expected loud arguments, fake drama, and made-up stories. Instead, they found something very different. They found people like Digger Mainies. He didn't try to be the center of attention. He wasn't chasing fame or acting for the cameras. He simply spoke the way he always had, worked the way he always had, and treated everyone with respect. That quiet confidence quickly made him one of the show's most trusted faces. But his journey to becoming a fan favorite wasn't overnight. At first, Digger appeared alongside experienced moonshiners who had spent years protecting their craft. Every episode reminded viewers that making traditional spirits wasn't easy. It demanded patience, skill, and an understanding of techniques that had been handed down through generations. Digger's knowledge wasn't something he learned from a book. It came from real life. That authenticity became his greatest strength. And then there was Mark Ramsey. The friendship between Digger and Mark became one of the biggest reasons fans kept coming back. Their conversations felt natural. One minute they were laughing over an old family story. The next, they were solving a serious problem together. Viewers believed their friendship because it wasn't created for television. It already existed long before the cameras arrived. But just as their popularity grew, so did the pressure. Millions of people were now watching every move they made. Every decision, every mistake, and every success became part of a public story. Digger later explained in interviews that being on television brought opportunities, but it also meant carrying the responsibility of representing Appalachian culture honestly. He wanted people to understand that moonshining was more than the stereotypes often seen in movies or headlines. That mission earned him respect far beyond the show's audience. Soon, fans weren't just watching to see whether a batch would succeed. They were watching because they cared about the people behind it. Then something unexpected happened. As the series became one of Discovery's most recognizable programs, online rumors began appearing almost every season. False stories claimed cast members had been arrested, fired, injured, or even killed. Digger and the rest of the cast repeatedly found themselves responding to misinformation spreading across social media and video platforms. The attention that made them famous also made them targets. And that wasn't the only challenge. As law enforcement became more aware of the show's popularity, questions about legality followed the cast everywhere they went. While Discovery has consistently maintained that the series follows legal and safety requirements during production, Digger and Mark have acknowledged that the history behind moonshining and the risks associated with it remain a real part of the story. In a recent interview, they even joked that staying out of prison had become one of their biggest goals as they grew older. Fans laughed at the comment. But beneath the humor was a serious truth. The life Digger had chosen had always carried consequences. Fame could not erase that. In many ways, success made those challenges even harder to escape. Yet through every season, Digger stayed true to himself. He never tried to become someone else for ratings. That honesty turned casual viewers into loyal supporters, and many fans now see him as one of the faces that defines Moonshiners. Everything seemed to be going exactly as planned. Then came the moment that changed everything. A new announcement, fresh speculation, and questions about whether one of Moonshiner's most beloved stars was preparing for a future no one expected. Before we reveal how that story unfolded, Make sure you subscribe because the next part uncovers the truth behind the rumors and the difficult choices Digger Manies had to make. For years, Digger Manies seemed to have found the perfect balance. He was doing what he loved, working alongside his best friend Mark Ramsey, and sharing a tradition that had been hidden in the Appalachian Mountains for generations. Millions of viewers tuned in every season to watch their adventures. To many fans, it looked like Digger was living the dream. But life behind the cameras was very different. The more popular Moonshiners became, the more pressure Digger faced. Every new episode brought fresh attention. Fans wanted updates. Reporters wanted interviews. Social media never stopped talking. Even a simple photo or short video could start dozens of rumors within hours. And Digger knew one thing better than anyone. Once a rumor starts online, stopping it is almost impossible. That became clear as fake stories about the cast spread across YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms. Some claimed Digger was leaving the show. Others said he had retired. A few even spread false reports about his health or personal life. Most of those stories had no reliable evidence behind them. Still, they attracted millions of views. Instead of reacting with anger, Digger usually chose a different path. Through interviews and public appearances, he focused on telling the real story. Fans appreciated that honesty because it matched the person they had watched on television for years. But another challenge was quietly growing. No one can escape it. The long days, rough mountain trails, heavy equipment, and endless travel became harder as the years passed. During recent interviews promoting newer seasons of Moonshiners, both Digger and Mark admitted they think more about safety now than they did when they were younger. They laughed about wanting to stay out of jail, but they also spoke seriously about protecting themselves and the people around them. Those comments made many longtime viewers wonder something important. Were they beginning to think about the future beyond Moonshiners? That question became even louder after Digger's latest public comments. Some fans immediately believed he was saying goodbye. Others thought he was simply preparing for the next chapter while continuing the show. The truth, however, was much more balanced. There has been no official announcement from Discovery or Digger Manies confirming that he is permanently leaving Moonshiners. Much of the online excitement came from short clips, headlines, and speculation that spread faster than the full interviews. Trusted interviews paint a more careful picture. Digger is thinking about the future, but he has not declared that his television journey is over. That difference matters. In today's world, a dramatic headline can travel around the globe before the complete story reaches viewers. And Digger has become one of the latest examples of that reality. Around this point in his journey, his story becomes bigger than television. Many people watching right now may be facing a challenge where others are making assumptions about them. Maybe people misunderstand your choices or judge you before hearing the full story. Digger's experience reminds us that the loudest voices are not always the most accurate. Sometimes, the truth takes longer to reach people, but it is still worth waiting for. Yet one question still remained. If Digger wasn't saying goodbye, then what was the real message behind his recent announcement? The answer isn't just about one television show. It's about protecting a family legacy, honoring generations of tradition, and deciding what kind of future he wants to leave behind. And that final chapter reveals why Digger Manies' story means far more than making moonshine.